Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's me as the Ranting reviewer here, jumping in here a little bit, just to talk a little bit about music and live albums in general. Now, I know that it is kind of a tiresome thing to talk about here, but with all honesty, there are a lot of great live albums out there and covers that you might not normally hear on albums just because of the fact that the artist will not do them on albums. So with that being said, I mean, I'm definitely going to want to talk about it a little bit more in depth because of the fact that I am just strictly a very big fan of live albums. I don't know what it is, but I absolutely love live albums. But before we get started, I just wanted to plug myself a little bit, if you don't mind. Humor me here. My name is the Ranting Reviewer, or you can find me on Twitter at NikonShooter94, or also known as the WWE Velociraptor. Also, you can find me on YouTube here under The Ranting Reviewer, or my secondary channel, the Video Game and Music MIDI Archive, where I post a lot of audio clips of famous video game music, of course, where basically I can do any song you want, I can pull them up, and make it as close to the original as possible, or give you a kind of faithful adaptation. So, with that being said, I'm done plugging myself. As long as you comment, like, and subscribe below, we can go ahead and get started with this little podcast here, and here we go. So, pretty much what we're going to talk about here, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I wanted to talk about live records and why I feel live records are almost superior to, let's say, for instance, studio records in some aspects, and I'll get to that in a second. Now, with studio records tend to be a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more loud. You don't have to worry about noise from the crowd, which I get. I get that, guys. I get the fact that listening to live or studio recordings is a lot better to hear all the intricacies and how the artist wanted to reimagine the music. But when it comes to live albums, you get to hear the crowd and how energetic they are based on every single song. As long as the songs are not re-recorded, Unleashed in the East, a lot of the live records from Kiss. Sorry, no offense, but Kiss Alive 1, 2, 3, and 4, or how many ever there fucking are, and Unleashed in the East are not going to be on here only because of the fact that those are not genuine live albums. They were re-recorded in some aspects because the band just does not like how they were recorded, and that is not my problem. Anyway, so, getting on to some of the live albums I truly enjoy. First things first, we'll start off with a nice classic from the 70s, I would say maybe late 1974, Ranting Comes Alive. A lot of the tracks on this album are very, very good songs. If we're talking about perspective-wise, this album caused a lot of people to really enjoy live albums, and it was one of the longer ones, too. If we're talking about intricacies of how detailed the album is, just look at the cover. Do you feel like we do? That lasts about 13 minutes, 54 seconds, give or take a couple seconds there. That fucking song is probably one of the best live recordings that Peter Frampton ever did. Also, Show Me the Way was a great song as well. Now, if we're talking about live records from him, he also did a second version of that album at a much later stage in his career, and to be quite frank, that was not that bad of an album to begin with. I believe that came out in the late 90s. I'm actually pulling that up right now, just so I can kind of go over it. I know that it was released as a 25th Anniversary Deluxe Edition. That's how old this album is. This album came out, give me a second here, 1976. Baby, I Love Your Way, by the way. I can't believe I forgot that. But out of those three, all three of those songs reached the top 15 on the Billboard Hot 100. I mean, seriously, like, you cannot go wrong with him. He has done no wrong at all. And he's still going. He is still going strong. And like I said, he did Ranting Comes Alive, too, which was a live record he did back in 1995, which, no offense, I think was actually just as good. Would I have liked to have heard some pretty interesting things on this album? Yeah. there was a really good cover of his. If you don't mind me going back a little bit, there was a cover of his that he did of Black Hole Sun from the Guitar Center sessions way long ago, and the cover was amazing. We're talking like he was literally, he didn't do the vocals of the song, he used his guitar to talk, because his guitar is how he sings. Otherwise, he does alright singing. He doesn't have the best voice in the world, but when he sings, it's good. So, with that being said, I would say that Peter Frampton's Frampton Come Alive is one of the best live albums of all time because it's pure live. They don't cut away, they don't do a lot of editing. It's just him, his guitar, his band going at it. So, with that being said, definitely something that I would thoroughly enjoy. Another great album that I can definitely recommend is an album from yet the same year. Another great live album. The Song Remains the Same from Led Zeppelin. That was also a concert film of the same name, which also saw a reissue twice. That's how popular this album was. With that, you have amazing tracks on this album. We're talking the classic Moby Dick track of his solo that went for, a good amount of time. I'd say it went for about 12 minutes, 12 and a half minutes. You also got the amazing 26-minute rendition of Dazed and Confused with Jimmy Page basically just having his fucking way with the guitar, using the electric bow pretty much, turning his guitar into an electric violin with 6 strings. Fucking fantastic album. Lots and lots of legacy on this album. Plus, you got the, ethereal Stairway to Heaven. Amazing, amazing album through all songs. All songs are amazing. They also featured some of the not shown songs from this album. They were on a later disc called Led Zeppelin, just Led Zeppelin, which had a picture of like a desert on it, and it was from '03. A great DVD if you never checked out Led Zeppelin live. This also features some concert from the Networth Park, which I thought was a very fantastic piece of video right there. We're talking, classic songs like Kashmir and When the Levees Breaks, stuff like that. The DVD set also included a really nice cover from the BBC Radio 1 studios, which basically had How I Can't Quit You, Baby, and How Many More Times, and Baby, I'm Gonna Leave You, and also Dazed and Confused. And there was a couple of music videos on there too, so definitely you got to check that out. Look at the video, watch it. It is amazing how intricate that this group can be. And I must tell you, I thought it was spectacular. I loved it. Every song on that album is fantastic. So with that being said, we're going to jump over to the next album, and we'll get right to that. That would be number 3 out of my 5 favorite live albums that I have to bring up. So my third favorite album that was live would have to be Pulse by Pink Floyd. If we're going to talk about an amazing live album with theatrics everywhere, we're talking the entire 9 yards. We're talking the airplane from On the Run, flying through from the top back of the arena to the side of the stage and crashing into the sky. We're talking, this is probably one of the most intricate live albums I've ever heard. It is literally almost as close to the original recordings as you can humanly get. You got the background vocalists who are actually doing pretty good and making Claire Taylor really proud here. Especially the Great Gig in the Sky track here, because they do the entire Dark Side of the Moon album from start to finish with basically no stalls. They have a little bit of, kind of progression in between the songs because they had to set up for the next track. But otherwise, it is seamless. And then you have the complete second side of this, which is a whole bunch of various songs that they did from back in the day. You got some classics like Astronomic Domain. You got Shine on Your Crazy Diamonds, the more popular part. You know, you got Learning to Fly from their later days. A couple of older tracks like Hey You from the Wall album. Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, which closed out the disc 1. And, I mean, it's just amazing. And if you look at the very end of disc 2, which is where the Dark Side of the Moon album is played in its entirety, you get some nice added bonus songs. You get Wish You Were Here from the Wish You Were Here album, Comfortably Numb, and Run Like Hell from the ever so classic The Wall album, which there is also a double disc live album of that on their discography. That's called Is There Anybody Out Here? The Wall Live 1980 to 81. This was a release that came out in about 2000. It was a box set which I actually personally own myself. It's not on the Google Play Store from my understanding. I've checked. I don't know. I have to double check and take a look. But this album, I believe, is out of print. This has every song from the Wall album from various locations, might I add. But they're played very, very well with the original lineup of David Gilmour, Roger Waters, Nick Mason, and Richard Wright, plus their backing band. So, I mean, you cannot go wrong with this album. This album is fantastic. Now, do they have the original background singers? No, but, can't go wrong here, This is an amazing album. If you're looking for something to listen to, I'm not talking about the Is There Anybody Out Here album. I am talking strictly about Pulse. Pulse is probably going to be one of your best opportunities to listen to the best of Pink Floyd without having to overdo it and listen to a 3-hour Roger Waters concert. So with that being said, we're going to jump to number 4 of one of my favorite live albums. We're going to get right to that right now. Another classic and underestimated live album that almost nobody really even talks about anymore. And it's kind of overly depressing that no one ever brings this album up, is the 1999 release of S&M from Metallica, which basically, if anybody didn't know, was an abbreviation for Symphony and Metallica. If we're going to go into why I believe that this is one of Metallica's more better live albums, because Live, Ship, Binge, and Purge was in a darker period of their career where their material was kind of just strictly old thrash metal. If I honestly wanted to say what I felt about them at this time, is this is one of their last albums with Jason Newsted. Going into late April of 1999, this was the final album to ever feature him. Now, with that being said, we got amazing classics on here done with the intricate San Francisco Symphony backed by Michael Kamen. Very fantastic orchestra here. They did a fantastic job going at it. We have masterful classics like Master of Puppets, of Wolf and Man, which is a nice little added touch. You got the hits like Fuel and Memory Remains, Hero of the Day, Devil's Dance. And then on the second side is when you get more of the older classics, like we're talking Nothing Else Matters, Until It Sleeps, which is pretty good. But For Whom the Bell Tolls with an orchestra is absolutely astounding and amazing to listen to. Wherever I May Roam, Sabbath Troop, one with an orchestra is epic because is an amazing way to show off the strings. And you end off with Enter Sandman and Battery. Battery must sound absolutely amazing on strings. I did not get all the way to the very end because this is a large double album. I heard snippets of this because, you have to listen to this in pieces. I had just recently re-listened to this album because it is featured on Google Play under the Metallica brand. There's also a couple of other live albums from them as well. Basically, you got albums Live, Ship, Binge, and Purge, and the Mexico DVD set that came out in 2009, which was good. You also had the Big Four, which I'm not including here because that is a various artist-style DVD. I do not consider that to be a strictly pure Metallica entry in terms of live records. I skipped stuff with that because of the fact that it's not all Metallica. There's no bonus features or anything. It is just Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax doing what they do best, which is shred like a motherfucker. And they go ham on that album. So, honestly, check out that, but honestly, you really need to listen to the S&M album. And if you don't, then you're obviously doing yourself a disjustice, and you're not hearing the music as it should have been, because Nothing Else Matters was a string song. Originally, the elevator version, which was James Hetfield, the acoustic guitar, and a symphony orchestra. So you actually would be able to get to hear how Nothing Else Matters should have sounded with both the orchestra and the backing band. With that being said, we're going to move on to our final live album, and I'm going to save the best for last. We're going to jump into the last, final, and the fifth entry into my list of my top 5 favorite live albums, and sometimes underestimated live albums of all time. The last and the most underestimated live album that I have in my arsenal, sitting right in front of me, and I personally have listened to all the way through, is the ever classic, fantastic 1972 release of Deep Purple's Made in Japan. Now, everyone's going to jump on me and go, oh, well, Kyle, that's just going to be a complete cop-out. That is just a complete, absolute cop-out. Okay, no, and I get that. And you may think that that is a cop-out, but you know what? It really isn't. And here is why. In my mind, I believe that this is probably the peak of all things that is rock and metal. Because if you look at it, from my perspective, this band epitomized everything that was rock, blues, and metal in one mesh between Ritchie Blackmore, Ian Gillan. You know, this is probably the best adaptation of, you know, of Deep Purple that you're ever going to find. It's literally the most iconic lineup you can get. Ritchie Blackmore on guitar, Ian Gillan on vocals, Roger Glover on bass, John Lord on the organ and piano, and Ian Pace on drums. This is the most iconic version of this group. And to be fair, you know that you would enjoy this album. You don't even need to lie to yourself. And on top of that, for the bonus release from the 25th anniversary, they added 3 more songs. On top of classics such as Highway Star and Child in Time, Smoke on the Water, underestimated classics like Lazy and Space Trucking, they also added Black Knight, Speed King, and a cover of Lucille, which is, I would honestly say, no offense, is probably going to be absolutely amazing. A nice, authentic, Little Richard cover in a nice, harsh, brass, heavy metal sound. I would honestly say, if you find this album out in the wild, which, by the way, the original CD release was 1 disc, you can find this for 1 album with 7 songs. Some of the songs are cut off. I believe the only track that is not, well, actually, no. All the tracks are in their original order. So, if you're looking for a fantastic live album, sorry, I got a little bit confused because of the fact that the single disc release and the LP have varying times. I would honestly get the single disc release because some of the songs on the original album version are cut. Space Trucking has a little bit more time on there. With that being said, that was my entire list of my 5 favorite live albums. This is going to be uploaded over to our Ranting Reviewer page. I'm going to have that uploaded tonight. And if you have any other requests for any classic rock songs or rock albums or anything music related, I cover anything from rock to pop to rap to hip-hop to jazz to classical. I don't care. If you want me to cover anything music-related, go ahead and drop that in the comments section. If you enjoyed the top 5 classic underestimated live records of all time, please comment below and say, I enjoyed this video. Drop a like, share the video, and of all else, thank you for supporting and watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we will reach back out to you in about a week with another uploaded video about the top 5 best cover songs of all time. Thank you and take care.